And check out the RCWR show with Lee Sanders. Get fun, in-depth coverage and analysis from the latest in professional wrestling in AEW, WWE, NWA, Impact Wrestling, or the world of entertainment. From hit TV shows to your favorite sports like the NBA or NFL. All things music, movies, and beyond, while trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in. All while keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive since 2011. And now your host, live from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
Hey, boys and girls, what is going on? Lee Sanders back with you guys for a new edition of the RCWR show for this Monday night of September 22nd, 2025. How y'all been? I hope your weekend was solid for the most part. I mean, here we are, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I can't really remember the last time this has happened. But it seems that WWE is in a little bit of a funk right now, yeah? I mean, we've essentially gotten 2 WWE shows in less than 72 hours, right? With Wrestlepalooza, which universally was panned. I mean, we were here Saturday night, and you all that checked out the post show, I said, no. At best, this is a C average show. Right down to the point. I said to you all, go back and check out the footage or listen to the audio. Available wherever you get your podcast. I said, minus Stephanie Vaquer taking on Iyo Sky, like if that match never happened, in my book, that whole Wrestlepalooza event goes down by a whole letter grade. So to see that all throughout the wrestling community and cue up my favorite song by Steve Perry, Foolish Heart, I woke up the next day and I said, man, I wonder if I'm being a little bit too critical. I wonder if I was a little bit too harsh on everything that came about with Wrestlepalooza. Then I listened to some of my friends in the podcasting world and colleagues, seeing what they had to say and everything. Like, And then what really put the nail in the coffin, and I would imagine that for WWE, this is the last thing that they wanted to be seeing and hearing. But the people that they are now in bed with, I'm talking about ESPN. Oh my God, it's bad when ESPN even goes, yeah, that wasn't a good event. Average at best. You guys that don't know what I'm talking about, and it's actually part of the thumbnail for our webcast streams. So ESPN actually gave a overall letter grade for Wrestlepalooza, their final grade, and this is plastered all on the ESPN site and all that. They gave WWE Wrestlepalooza a final grade letter of C. And just to kind of whet you all's appetite, just a tiny little bit as far as some of what they had said. I would highly encourage you guys, go out of your way, read the article. I really feel that when you read the ESPN article, you think about a lot of the stuff that we had talked about here on the Palooza Post Show, and then you see what all the chatter has been on social media. One heart, one mind, one voice. We all are just very seldom. But man, when we all are on the same page, we all are on the same page. Just a little snippet from what ESPN had said. The excellent Vaquer versus Sky match saved this show from being truly average. It was a phenomenal display inside the squared circle. Everything else was neither, correction, everything else was either, I really need to wear my glasses. Everything else was either underwhelming, the short Rhodes McIntyre match, or a setup for a future match, Lesnar dominating Cena. For a card that promised to have epic moments, it fell a little short of expectations. That is from ESPN's own damn website in regards to the event. Like, if that is not a. Do I even have that? No. Do I have that? I mean, seriously, Jesus Christ. That's the last thing that you want. So, going into tonight's Monday Night Raw, all right. Now, look, some of us could maybe give WWE an out and say, well, look, this Wrestlepalooza, ESPN, they really didn't have enough time to truly properly build this up. They thought they were going to be with Peacock at least for the rest of the year, and the ESPN deal wasn't supposed to happen until next year. But then you think about the loopholes, and then look, we're not making any excuses for WWE. But we are stating the facts that maybe a lot of this had came a lot sooner rather than later. Not to mention there was definitely some audio technical glitches that was going on with ESPN for this Wrestlepalooza broadcast. So, not making excuses, just stating facts. I don't know. I don't know. Is it safe to say that by the time we get to the next event, which will be on ESPN, all of them will. Remember, we got Crown Jewel. Crown Jewel, that sweet Saudi money. It's going to be coming up in 3 weeks. Is that going to be enough time for WWE / ESPN to pretty much rebound? Only time is going to tell. But I never thought I would be here on this night to say to you guys, wow, we got two average to below average WWE shows in less than a span of 72 hours. I gotta tell you, I was going into tonight's WWE Raw. I was more excited for tonight's show as opposed to the bitter taste that was left in my mouth with Wrestlepalooza. But see, check this out. For those of you that were making your rounds on social media, you knew that something was kind of in the air a little bit. By the time you got to, I would say 9, 10, 11 o'clock this morning. And usually by around that time on a Monday, the preview for that night's Raw, it's already out. So you're going, oh, okay, well, we got this, we got this. As far as I can recall, we didn't finally get a preview rundown of what all was supposed to happen on tonight's show, not until later in the afternoon. I would say, at least for me, I didn't finally see it in my feed until sometime after 2 in the afternoon. I don't know how it was for you guys, but for me, that's when it finally hit. And I kind of looked at the preview and I said, I don't know about this one. Well, they said Cody Rhodes was going to be appearing. Okay, well, that right there, that's all right. I did not check out the Wrestlepalooza post show, but now in retrospect, it makes a lot of sense because apparently Seth Rollins had interrupted, I guess, Cody Rhodes during the Wrestlepalooza post show or whatnot. So apparently one of our main matches coming up at Crown Jewel is going to be Cody Rhodes taking on Seth Rollins. They will be going one-on-one, and if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be for I think the Saudi Arabia championship. Like, I almost forgot that Cody Rhodes had that title. I honestly forgot that there was a Saudi championship, period, for that matter. No, they're not going to be fighting each other in a winner-takes-all joint for those two respective World Heavyweight Championships. No. Instead, it is pretty much going to be a singles match for the Crown Jewel Championship. Oh, joy. A championship that we pretty much have not seen since it was initially introduced and it pretty much was won. Like, we haven't seen and heard from it since. And this is one of the matches that's going to be happening in Saudi Arabia. Oh, joy. Oh, joy is all I have to say. We need more positive energy, right? I can just hear you guys now. Lee, can you be a little bit more upbeat, man? Can you be a little bit more? No. No. I just, no. This is one of those rare times where the fan in me that wants better from some of these promotions that we're checking out on a weekly basis, I'm just putting my foot down and I'm going, God damn, give me some motivation here. What is the whole point of me continuing to watch this product? You guys are literally giving me a reason to go see what's going on with other promotions and seeing what's going on the independent circuit. Where is the extra motivation here to really, right? It should be about quality, not quantity. And it just seems to me that WWE is really starting to struggle with that quantity. They really, really are starting to struggle with that quantity. And if that is the case, then maybe, just maybe, powers that be behind the scenes need to loosen the reins a little bit and kind of make sure you got some designated teams that, okay, you guys are responsible for these rivalries, these respected superstars, writing team, you guys are responsible for this, and just keep it at that. Stay with that respected team, and then when you all need to overlap, cross-reference, then yeah, you go ahead and you do that. I'll try to find some positivity for this episode of Raw where I can, but I tell you the best part about tonight's WWE Raw, honestly, for me, two things. Two things was good for me. One, the fact that it went off before 9:30 p.m. on the East Coast. So that is great because that basically means I get to go to bed on time, way before midnight. I get to watch the news. I get to let my dogs out one more time for the night. I get to catch up with the missus, have a nice little conversation with her, find out how her day had went. And then I get to pull a Donald Duck, pull the covers over me, and go to bed nice and early. So the fact that Raw ended early, great. The fact that the show went off was good for me because I was bored out of my ever fucking loving mind. Right down to the point, I didn't even put up you guys notice, we didn't even put up a Raw poll. I don't think it's needed. I think the results is essentially going to be the same as what happened with Wrestlepalooza, which, by the way, thank you guys that had sounded off, giving your thoughts about Wrestlepalooza in general. I'm looking at the final tally results for Wrestlepalooza. Shout out to you guys that have voted via Twitter at the RCWR show. Final tally for that, by the way. Here's the results. 2% of you gave Wrestlepalooza a A. Meanwhile, 14% of you said it was a B. 39% of you said it was a C. Wow, top dog. 45% of you ranked Wrestlepalooza in the D to F range. Appreciate you guys that have voted via Twitter. Final tally for YouTube, youtube.com/the RCWR show is as follows. Tie at 13% for those of you that said it was a event. Other half of you said it was a B. 25% of you said it was a C event. Meanwhile, 50% of you said it was in the D to F range. Appreciate you guys that have voted via YouTube. So, tonight's WWE Raw coming to us from where was it tonight anyway? I'm trying to figure out where it was. Oh, what the hell? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Important thing is we got Cody Rhodes opening up the show, right? Yeah, we got Cody Rhodes opening up the show. I will admit, Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, their exchange opening up tonight's show, that was pretty solid. I did enjoy the back and forth between those two. Rollins talked about how he had Crown Jewel 2025 circled on his calendar ever since SummerSlam, apparently. Ever since Cody Rhodes and he came out as the respected champions. And he talked to Cody about how he would like to believe that it could be a case where coming up at Crown Jewel, may the best man win, but he feels it's deeper, it's bigger, it's more personal than that. I love the CM Punk chants that we got and how Rollins essentially countered that shit. That was good. Talked about how he doesn't care what the fans think and what they have to say, but what he does actually care about is what Cody thinks about him. What does Cody have to say about him? Cody admitting it's very complicated, saying that Rollins has made some questionable choices, particularly the goons that he's aligned himself with there in the Vision's Paul Heyman, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed. He goes on to say that without Seth Rollins, Cody being the established superstar that he is today in WWE, it just would not have been possible. Talks about how Rollins indirectly played a huge impact on him in his return to WWE. Of course, everything with WrestleMania and Rollins not sure who he was going to be fighting, and turned out it was Cody, to their epic Hell in a Cell matchup, to what was that, WrestleMania 40, and Seth Rollins making the ultimate sacrifice, being his shield, helping Cody Rhodes eventually win the World Heavyweight Championship and everything. Mentions the fact that he had Becky Lynch on his podcast recently. Talks about how on any given night, Seth Rollins could essentially be the greatest wrestler in the ring when Rollins decides to be. But what he's more interested in knowing is, what does Rollins think about himself? Well, Rollins would answer that by showing Cody a watch that Cody got him around that time. Rollins helped Cody win the World Heavyweight Championship. Rollins talked about how he had not worn that watch since until tonight. And he wanted to know if what Cody gave him is yeah, I got that, Professor. Thank you. What he wanted to know was if it was you heard me just do a like, so quick sidebar, I needed some help. I'm supposed to be doing a reading on In Cold Blood by Capote, and I could not find the readings. And so I hit my professor up and I said, yo, I didn't say yo, but I'm paraphrasing, but I am like, yo, I can't find the readings. What's going on? So my professor was like, you should see it now. If you don't see it, let me know. I already emailed him and told him I see it. Thanks. But now I guess he's telling me, I don't know, maybe that wasn't for me. Maybe he actually meant to send that email to somebody else. I told him I was good, though. Anyway. So Rollins wondering if that watch that was given to him by Cody was truly a gift of affection from the heart, or if it was more like a token thing. So you're kind of going through this motion of this promo, and you're like, okay, let's really get down to the heart of the matter here. What are we beating around the bush about? What's the real deal here? And finally, Rollins revealed what really was eating his crawl. He didn't like hearing the fact that Cody talked about how he was the perfect person to lead the industry into the future, that he is the quarterback. To which Rollins wonders, well, yo, if you talking all that good hot game, then what exactly does that say about me, Cody? Like, it's either two things. Either I'm not good enough, or just not as good as you, Cody. And from there, Rollins told Cody straight up, hey, look, you will definitely be a quarterback, all right, but you're going to be my quarterback. So Rollins really drawing the line in the sand there for Cody. Cody essentially having no comeback whatsoever and pretty much rolling out after that. Later on, Cody would bump into Jey Uso. Actually, no, Jimmy Uso it was that he bumped into, as Jimmy isn't feeling what's going on with Jay, feels that Jay isn't quite in the right headspace, which was kind of sad when it was all said and done. I gotta admit, it was really, really disappointing. It really, really was. Because on the one hand, you look at what was going on there. And look, didn't I call that shit? I mean, really stop and think about that. Didn't I call that shit as far as what was going to happen with Jay and Jimmy? I was right here on Wrestlepalooza. What was that? Like, yeah, we weren't even here that long ago, and I had said, watch this. You guys are gonna see a really cool scenario play out where Jay Uso is probably gonna say to Jimmy, yo, we would have got the damn job done if you wouldn't have been so all nice and snuggled up, cold, bundled up there with LA Knight. If you would have been doing your damn thing, we would have been able to take care of B&B. That's what I call them, Braun Breaker or Bronson Reed. I call them B&B. Name can use a little bit of work, but it's all good. So we actually saw Jay chewing into Jimmy a little bit verbally tonight. We actually saw that. And man, I tell you what, I loved how Jimmy trying to do his best to compose himself, but he's like, dude, really? Like, you really gonna come at me like that, dog? Like, seriously? It's like, it wasn't even like that. Like, come on, dude. So eventually, Jimmy, needing to cool off and everything, runs into Cody and tells him straight up, hey, I need a solid favor. Maybe you could talk to Jay. Like, he's just not in the right headspace. If there's anybody maybe he'll listen to, maybe he'll listen to you. Cody's like, you know what? I think I'll go ahead. I'll take you up on that. We'll see what happens. So now, as far as I know, and I'll have to rely on you guys, I don't remember seeing Cody on the same show talk to Jay. If it did happen, let me and everybody else know what happened, but I didn't see that. So I'm not saying it didn't happen. We didn't see the conversation, but like when I was watching, I did not see it go down. I did not see it go down. Like it's kind of, Oh, and hey, by the way, I love hearing from you guys. I do. You guys are awesome as always. So if you ended up watching Raw tonight, definitely sound off. Let me know what you think. You can also let me know just if you want to pick my brain on like some of a number of the topics that we're going to be covering on tonight's show. 'Cause you picked a good night to tune in. Not only are we going to talk about WWE Raw, I'll definitely give you guys my thoughts about everything that's been going on with the Raja Jackson situation as well. Um, I'll talk a little bit about the Jimmy Kimmel stuff as well, because I know the Jimmy Kimmel stuff that went down. That Jimmy Kimmel shit, it ties in so perfectly with my journalism major and understanding the roles, the structure that journalists play for the industry. Also, the politics that's involved, the censorship, and all of that. So I mean, we all can agree Jimmy Kimmel is not a journalist, but with all the stuff that was happening with him, it does violate his free speech rights and everything to a degree. So we'll talk a lot about that. I also got some more little wrestling news, wrestling little tidbits that we can get into. But let's first go ahead burn through the rest of tonight's Monday Night Raw and everything, and then we can go from there. Some other stuff from tonight's Raw. Bayley coming across Lyra Valkyria. Remember the last time we saw these two interacting with one another, Bayley verbally went off on her and told her, "Yo, get the hell out of my room. Why the hell are you in here? Like, get out." Well, this week, bubbly Bayley, I guess Bayley maybe, I don't know, freeze pop, whatever the hell she was taking. Maybe she was all right, and yeah, whatever. She came up to Lyra and was like, "Hey, how about you hook me up, right? Since I was there for you in your respective match, how about you hook me up? And how about you be there for me in my match against Roxanne Perez? What do you say?" To which freaking what's her face? Lyra, she's having trepidations and all of that, and she's like, "Well, if it means that the best you it will come out, I guess I'm okay. Yeah, let's go ahead, let's do it then. Let's go ahead, let's do it." So we got that matchup between both of those girls. Actually, was fairly decent. I have some issues with the way Roxanne Perez is booked in some of these matches of hers, because if there was ever a time where I was expecting for Roxanne Perez to be just a little bit intimidated, it's the fact that, wow, I'm going up against, without a doubt, a future WWE Hall of Famer, and Bayley. She is essentially like a Grand Slam women's champion and everything. Man, this woman has done so much, and she is just a little bit mentally unstable right now. I'm not exactly sure what the hell is going on, but I definitely need to tread lightly here. I would have loved it if Roxanne would have been selling some great apprehension, right? Being very cautious as she's wrestling Bayley. And this would have been really, because think about it. What we've been getting from the Bayley character these past couple of weeks and everything. Obviously, she's got that unhinged, unstable persona. We've got the hugger persona and all of that. And it really would have been nice to truly see those personalities at full display during this matchup, particularly the hugger persona, and trying to get along with everybody, and Roxanne playing up to that, but kind of using that to her advantage. And it would justify why Roxanne would be coming off like the alpha dog in this matchup. Just the whole psychology of this match, it really, really was just bad on so many fronts. I personally feel, right down to the point that if they would have laid the match out the way that I'm suggesting, it could have easily been a case where once Bayley started flipping the script mentally a little bit, even right down to wrestling a little bit differently. Okay, well, you got Raquel Rodriguez who's already there. You could have easily had Roxanne rely on Raquel, to try to help her out. But yeah, just the way this whole match played itself out, I really wasn't a fan of it at all. Now, look, that is not the fault of Bayley and Roxanne, right? They pretty much are giving their marching orders, and I would like to believe within reason they can do XYZ within reason. But I know they're not sitting down and pretty much laying all this shit out the way that we're talking about it here on the show and everything. But I really wish this could have been fine tuned just a little bit more. Um, Post match, Bayley did pick up the win, or actually, did she? Let me look at my notes real quick here. I think, yeah, Bayley did pick up the victory here. Post match, Lyra gets in there trying to celebrate with Bayley, and Bayley just has a flip out moment, shoves her right down to her ass, asks her, does she know who she is, tells Lyra to stay the hell out of her business, rolls the hell out. So pretty interesting continuation and seeing what's going on with the Bayley character, and how these new personas are being what's the word I'm looking for? Translated into her matches, but WWE still, there's so much more that they can do, and I really hope that some of what we're talking about here on the show, I can somehow get these guys to really, you know, because the blueprint, it's a good blueprint. They just gotta fine tune it a little bit more and everything. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Earlier there was another match that had went down. I didn't forget about that one, folks. I'm talking about Eric, Ivar, and Penta. They were involved in a six-man tag match with New Day and Grayson Waller. Nothing too crazy, nothing too off the wall. No, average match at best, I would say. Nothing really too much more to write home about for that one. Elsewhere, we got the recap from over the weekend about Stephanie McMahon going into the 2026 WWE Hall of Fame class. Man, you know, if you've been checking out my show for a long time, I've always told you guys that the Hall of Fame, that is of all the shows that's put out by WWE, Hall of Fame weekend, the Hall of Fame show, that is what I look forward to the most. And you know what always tickles my fanny is there will be podcasters, and I'm not throwing any shade on anybody particularly, but there will be podcasts that like they haven't done a show in a year, 2 years, or 3 years, but they will come from out of the woodworks to either cover Hall of Fame weekend or they'll cover WrestleMania weekend, and then like you'll never ever see them again. I mean that's just fact. That's just fact, right? But like for me, it's like before the Hall of Fame coverage that WWE's been doing, like before it even started becoming a thing, like a Hall of Fame post show. Man, we were doing it way back before it even became popular. Like seriously, and that's not me sucking my own, you know, giving myself a pat on the back. I'm just stating fact. So you can imagine, in regards to the talk of the Hall of Fame, hearing that Stephanie McMahon's going to be going into that 2026 class, you can only imagine how excited I was initially when I heard that. And I did say to you guys we were going to talk a lot more about Stephanie going into the Hall of Fame here on tonight's show. Look, I know that there are a decent amount of you guys out there that feel divided about Stephanie going into the WWE Hall of Fame. Look, I don't need to be hopping on social media to get an idea what you guys like. I already know because as a fan myself, I've got two eyes. I've lived through all the stuff that's been happening with WWE through the years and everything. So, but there is a part of me, although I can understand both sides of the coin, there is that part of me that the overall picture, I can definitely have a bigger, deeper appreciation about Stephanie going into the Hall of Fame. So let's go ahead and let's talk about some of that, right? Let's kind of get some of these newer listeners caught up to speed and everything. So Stephanie McMahon going into the WWE Hall of Fame, when you really stop and you think about it, Stephanie had so many roles in the WWE when she first started. I actually remember when Stephanie McMahon used to be one of the early models for their catalog. She would be wearing different wrestlers merch and you know she'd be posing and all that in the catalogs. If you old school wrestling fans remember that, pat yourselves on the back and everything, right? She was also doing a lot of reception work as well back in the day. So she really, those early years, we're talking about maybe like late 80s, early 90s, going into the 2000s. That pretty much was her early beginnings, was the merchandise catalogs, um, appearing in fan mail stuff, working behind the scenes, but like mainly reception, account executive stuff. Not to bore you guys, but that was the main gist of what she was doing. Then when it came to the late 90s, like 97, 98, that's when she had became an official WWE slash F account executive, receptionist type roles, worked in business operations, while also doing some modeling, still doing some merch work as well. Ultimately made the transition from the late 90s into the 2000s, as many of us old school fans remember, into ultimately doing her on air debut as a character, participating in storylines, occasional wrestling matches here and there. Became the first WWF Women's Champion back in 2000. That it's really nothing to write home about. That's not me being facetious. I'm just being real with you guys. But she was doing all of that while still maintaining her business roles within the company. Then in the mid 2000s, that's when she slid into the creative side of the business in WWE, uh, assisting with writing, supervising. What else did she do? Creative writing, senior VP of creative writing. And if you've listened to your fair share of Paul Heyman doing interviews from back in the day, he's kind of commented about that particular era in WWE. As a matter of fact, if I remember right, there's one infamous story that comes to mind, I think, where Paul Heyman, he wasn't supposed to be part of a conference call, and he apparently had somehow quietly eavesdropped in on this, and I guess there was like something that he did not like, and I can't remember if he said something and then disconnected, or if he coughed or something, but somehow they were able to trace back that Paul Heyman had been the one to disconnect from that, because he had no business being in there. Look it up online. You'll definitely be able to find it. Of course, you think about the on-screen roles, the many on-screen roles that she had. If you were to pick my brain and ask me, in all honesty, what was perhaps my most favorite role of Stephanie McMahon as an on-screen character, there's three that come to mind. There's three that come to mind. My first all-time favorite, it definitely was when Kurt Angle started to become obsessed with Stephanie McMahon, and just it really, really intensified the rivalry there between Kurt Angle and Triple H. That was actually my favorite era involving Stephanie McMahon. The other one, I loved when Stephanie McMahon was the SmackDown general manager and Eric Bischoff was the Raw general manager, and just their back and forth of, trying to one up each other and everything culminating. Well, it wasn't the pivotal point, but it was a critical moment on TV when these two had their rivalry, where Eric Bischoff had this really deep makeup disguise, and he ended up somehow backstage with Stephanie, and he peeled his little makeup crap off and or whatever. Actually, no. I got that mixed up with something else. No, this one, Eric Bischoff, no makeup. He just came across Stephanie backstage. I think it was on SmackDown, and he just put his tongue down her throat and everything. I just was like, whoa, right? I didn't see that one coming. But I did like when the two of them were going back and forth as the respected GMs and everything. So, I mean, we kind of all now that we've gone down memory lane on Stephanie McMahon and all that, we know about her, executive corporate roles. We know what's been happening with her in recent years. Let's talk a little bit about the criticism that has happened with Stephanie, right? Obviously, the family dynasty dynamics, you can't help but address that shit because she comes from the McMahon family. People say some of her roles within the company was given to her. She didn't exactly earn them. It was more of a lineage than purely earned. And, whether that's a fair comment or not to make, it's definitely a very well valid critique. It is. Then, of course, you have the Vince McMahon controversies. I mean, some would definitely make the argument that inducting her is a very tricky, slippery slope here because of the scandals around Vince. Come on, tell me I'm lying. I mean, the sexual assaults, the misconduct, and how much of her career was essentially tied to decisions made under Vince McMahon's direction. Some people feel her rise and perhaps decisions benefited from nepotism, right? So that's a very delicate area, without a doubt. And then, of course, when it comes to her in ring wrestling credentials, like nobody's gonna dispute Stephanie. She really wasn't a wrestler like that. Definitely did not give us any significant real wrestling moments. So if you're that wrestling purist fan, of course you're gonna be, wait a minute, huh? Like, yeah, no. Compared to, because I promise you, we'd be here all night if we go, let's think about some of the women that's not in the WWE Hall of Fame that should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, and yet Stephanie McMahon pretty much got a rocket strapped to her back and was able to fly past all those women. Yes, without a shadow of doubt. You also can't help but think about some of the executive controversies or the public perception, right? Some fans have definitely criticized decisions made during her time in creative executive roles, which included storylines that some people honestly didn't like, some business moves that fans didn't like. How WWE handled certain issues, especially from a public relations standpoint, plus the stepping down or shifting roles, that kind of came with its own respected criticisms, accountability, transparency issues highlighted as well. So there's all the sides of the coin there. But as far as how the many people in the wrestling community are looking at this and thinking that she is deserving of the WWE Hall of Fame, those that's taking that argument, we're not really that argument, but just that mindset. How about that? I mean, they make very valid points, which is, look, she's been a part of the WWE for practically her whole life. Different capacities of what we highlighted: business, creative, on screen. I mean, the girl has pretty much done it all. She's played a major pivotal role in WWE as far as their expansions, their branding, the behind the scenes work, even loaning herself as an on screen character. Some fans saying that it's long overdue. I think that's a poor choice of words. I'm not going to say long overdue. I think, if anything, if you wanted to say, well, that's welcoming, I think I would be okay with that. Now, Shane McMahon's son sounded off on social media. I was expecting him to say, hey, that's great for my auntie. Yeah, hell yeah. But no, Shane McMahon's son said, well, how about Shane McMahon for the WWE Hall of Fame? So of course this kind of got people talking. Yeah, why not Shane McMahon? Why not Shane going into the WWE Hall of Fame? I think that's where things take a very serious turn. I'm not gonna say a turn for the worse, but let's look at it this way. Let's look at it this way. Let's talk about Shane McMahon. So we already talked at great length about Stephanie. Shane, polar opposite of Stephanie, and we really need to hit this home. Shane McMahon entered the business with on-air stints, referee, commentator, before moving ultimately into a performer position. Okay? Obviously, the man was known for taking wild bumps, jumping off Titantrons, steel cages, hell in a cells, ladders. You know it. Okay, you know it and you can name it. All right. In the back, he did work on production and international expansion for the company, but he always seemed to be more invested in and even Vince McMahon highlighted this during the Vince McMahon docuseries on Netflix that Shane McMahon was more interested in earning the locker room respect, being considered one of the boys, as opposed to climbing that corporate ladder and really understanding all the different nuances, that came with the business and everything. And as we all know, eventually Shane left the company several times, but the most notable one, 2009, and then again, the 2010s, and didn't return until basically the 2020s or whatever. But you can definitely make an argument that from Vince McMahon's standpoint, Vince McMahon saw probably likely saw Steph as the heir apparent for the business side of things because he likely saw that she was very disciplined. She had the right temperament, the corporate, the understanding of the branding. And that's long-term keys to success for the WWE, right down to the point as Stephanie continued to age and get more of a better understanding behind the scenes. Vince would rely on her more for her expertise. Shane McMahon, although 10 plus years older, all he really cared about was being liked by the peers, the wrestlers, the fans, ultimately being respected by his dad. Not really looking at things from a bigger, grander spectrum, right? So a big difference right there. Shane McMahon for a WWE Hall of Fame. I mean, he gave us some really cool WTF wrestling moments. Yeah, for sure. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Is it something that should be happening in the next 2, 3, 4 years or something like that? Uh no. 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 Because and look, if you're WWE 2, you got to be careful because the last thing you want to do is put yourself in a position where, well, that's a very good point. Why not Shane McMahon? And then it starts becoming like this trophy type of deal. You feel me? So it's a slippery slope. Kind of got to be careful with that one. But Stephanie McMahon going into the WWE Hall of Fame, I personally, I really don't have an issue with it whatsoever. And if you have been paying attention off and on to what I've been saying about Stephanie McMahon, the WWE within recent months, just even the past couple of years, particularly, I have said, yo, with what they've been doing with Stephanie McMahon, it feels like not a revisionist project, but it has felt like a rebranding, reintroduction project of what they've been doing with Stephanie McMahon. And I sincerely mean it, and I still stand behind that. Now, look, I'm not saying that Stephanie McMahon is a saint. I would imagine that there is some shit that she knows damn well that Vince McMahon and look, for all we know, it might have been one of the main reasons why her and Triple H Paul Levesque teamed up when they did and said, "Yeah, pops, about time for you to roll out. Better get out while the getting's good." And we see how that all had played itself out. I do believe that they had his best intentions at heart, but when it seemed as though things were starting to look 10 times better with McMahon out of the picture, oh, you want to try to say that I was the problem. You want to try to say that, oh, okay, well, I see, okay. Well, this all wouldn't have been possible without me. I'm going to show you guys. Then you think about the twisted, bad relationship, the bad blood that's going on in there. We've heard all the stories. Shout out to Jonathan Coachman about this person isn't talking to this person. And, it's an unfortunate situation. Look, let me tell you something. It is unfortunate when you've got members of a family that basically are not on speaking terms. I know that there are many of you guys out there that can relate to that. Hell, maybe it's not even a family member. Maybe it is a best friend of yours or somebody that used to be a best friend. Let me tell you something, and this is on the real tip. And I get this once in a while on the shows. For some of our listeners, some of the best times that they had enjoyed listening to this particular show was back when I had a former co-host, and I don't mind mentioning his name because I love the hell out of the dude. I actually still consider him to be a friend. Titus. Love that dude to death. I remember we had this one guy. He would make like various accounts and he had tried faking his own death and I mean, I still got the video too, saved. I just privatized it, just blowing this whole dude like it was weird. Dude was just mentally weird. But I bring him up to say, I remember how he tried to stir the pot and he tried to say some crap online, trying to get me and Titus beefing with one another. Little did he know me and Titus had been talking for months and we were like, oh, it's like that, huh? And I love Titus to death. One of the main reasons why at the very end, our relationship didn't quite work out the way that it did. There was no drama, no behind the scenes, no backstabbing. It was just Titus was ready to grow his respected brand. Titus outgrew where I was. He learned what he needed to learn from me, and he was ready to try at it solo. Titus will tell you. Titus will tell you that. I used to help Titus, and Titus will tell you this. I used to help Titus with his shows. People do not know this, but at one point, Titus would give me his shows, and I would either edit them and upload them through my respected feeds, or I would just, once he really started, getting the hang of editing on his own, I would just take his shows and I would release it through my own respective feeds and all that. But ultimately, and I didn't understand it really back then because I'm not going to say because I was a kid, because I wasn't, but I was I was definitely much younger, right? A little naive, right? but I didn't quite know, where his headspace was at that time. But all the signs, when I look back on it now, he was starting to get to a place where he was more interested in working on his own respected brand and everything. And did that kind of sting for me a little bit? Yeah, especially when you found yourself the perfect co-host and you want to continue to, you know, and after things had, mellowed out, father time had passed, me and Titus, we started talking again and we had did our we actually reunited. We did a one-off show, and I know for Titus these past handful of years with the political climate, I know for a fact it really messed with his head. I know that he held certain views politically, and with a lot of the stuff that he was saying, I know it really kind of took its toll on him, you know. And I would see people that will pop up in the chat from time to time, and I don't know why they would say this, but I would get some dumbasses that would pop up in the chat, and they'll be like, "Titus owns you," and it's like, okay, I'm not really sure what to make about that, because I actually still consider Titus a friend, and I know that Titus still considers me a friend, and but people can grow apart for respected reasons. I have no beef with him. He's got no beef with me. I know I had reached out to a few people behind the scenes trying to find out, yo, what's going on with Titus? Within recent weeks, I tried to find out legit, because I was hoping I could have something that I could share here on the show with you guys. But Titus, I know there was a stretch there where he was working on his own brand. He was doing his own string of shows, but the guy just one day he just stopped. He hasn't done anything in a couple of years now. It's probably been about maybe 3, maybe possibly 4 years now that he hasn't done anything. And all I can do is just say, well, I may not talk to him on a regular basis, but I'm not going to wish somebody that played an integral part in my life while I was still trying to understand the world of podcasting. And at the same time, I'm taking somebody under my wing, essentially showing them the ropes. But more importantly, I'm being a friend to them just as they're being a friend to me. I'm not going to wish somebody. Let me tell you something. In case you guys don't realize this by now, the type of person I am right now, where I'm at in my life, being about 6 years away from turning 50. I don't have time for hate. I don't have time for jealousy. I don't have time for bickering back and forth. He said, she said. I don't have time for games. I don't have time for bullshit. Plain and simple. I'm not about the drama. I will shut that shit down like I don't know what. I say all this to say this. With what I've been seeing of the McMahon family over the years, you thought I forgot, but I didn't. With what I've been seeing with the McMahon family over the years, take it from somebody that truly knows what it's like to, man, I got best friends that I no longer talk to, and I had been friends with them since high school. In some cases, junior high, high school. I no longer talk to them. I've got certain relatives that I have not spoken to in over 20 years. You know, I don't like it. I get a little sad when it comes to the holidays because, I've been so used to picking up the phone, calling them, you know, and there's no worse feeling in the world, as it's happened to me, than when you find out, well, that person's dead. I really hope the McMahon family, whatever issues is going on, I really hope they all can get together and they can truly let bygones be bygones. Because let me tell you something, man. Trying to give somebody their flowers and sing their praises and getting that kumbaya moment and going, oh, I wish I would have after they are long gone. Like, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like, you're late. You better take care of it and appreciate them now while they're still living. I really, really hope that whatever's going on with the McMahon Levesque family, I really hope that they're able to patch things up there. I just think about that infamous interview and Triple H saying in regards to there's one interview that I think about, but I'm mainly thinking about Triple H and his Hall of Fame induction earlier this year, and when he brought up Vince McMahon saying it's complicated. I just squash that shit. Squash that shit. Because the worst, let me tell you something, the worst feeling that will ever, and this is my message to anybody, the worst feeling that you will get is once that person has passed and then you go, man, I wish I woulda. Not straight from the heart. That's real talk. That is real talk right there. Let's see. Some other stuff. JD McDonough taking on Rusev. They tried the numbers game on Rusev, but Rusev ultimately able to pull out the W via submission. I like what's happening with our boy Rusev. It seems like WWE is slowly but surely starting to get behind Rusev in the form of repositioning him, at the same time reminding fans what made Rusev so damn great back in the day and everything. So it's interesting hybrid what's going on with Rusev right now, because on the one hand you can clearly see that WWE is doing like this weird hybrid version of a Rusev. It's almost kind of like they are indirectly drawing upon the Rusev character that was Miro in AEW, but at the same time, they're trying to do their stamp of Rusev. So it's nice watching this hybrid that's going on and everything. JD looked pretty damn good in this matchup. He held his own fairly good against Rusev. I definitely got to give him props on that one. This match was the result of Dominic Mysterio coming across Finn Balor, trying to see if he could get some help with Rusev, to which Balor's like, dude, I am so busy. Forget about it. It ain't happening. Dominic going to JD for help. JD's like, nah, won't you go holler at Grand Americano? And eventually Dom was able to convince JD to help him, and turns out match against Rusev. What a pal. Seriously, what a pal. Anyway, Jey Uso taking on LA Knight. Jey Uso picking up the victory there. All these matches tonight too, by the way, maybe with the exception of the main event match, real short matches. I mean, minus the commercials, you're probably talking about 6, 7, maybe even 8 minutes at that. So some really short matches here. Okay match right here. You still can't help but wonder what the future might hold for Jey Uso. By the way, the timing of this match with Jey Uso and LA Knight, I gotta mention, knowing that they're beefing with one another. Speaking of beef, to see the Slim Jim commercial with Jey Uso and LA Knight, hilarious shit. See, other than that, just going in my notes here, your main event match of the night was Asuka taking on Rhea Ripley. This was another one of those backstage instant Acme feud type of matches. Stephanie Vaquer celebrating in the ring earlier in the night, being the new women's champion. Loved her speech to the fans. Good stuff. She comes across Rhea Ripley backstage. Rhea's like, yo, congrats. Just know I'm definitely coming for that championship. Vaquer's like, yo, whenever. Bring it. Anytime you're ready, bring it. Nikki Bella just happened to be backstage as well. welcoming Stephanie and then celebrating the victory and all that. Asuka and Kairi Sane entered the mix. Asuka talking some hot trash to Vaquer. Vaquer saying, "Look, anytime you want to fight, like I'm ready. You want to do it for the championship? Let's do it." Speaking of the championship, while Stephanie was giving her acceptance speech, technically, right? Adam Pearce revealed that on this Friday's SmackDown, there's going to be a women's championship match between Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill. So whoever is the winner from that, they will face Stephanie Vaquer at Crown Jewel. And that will be a match for the Women's Crown Jewel Championship. You heard me right. A women's match for the Crown Jewel Championship. Now, there's probably those of you that's going, Lee, is that a new championship, homie? Technically it is, yes. Do you remember who the original Saudi Women's World Champion is? If not, I can help you out. It was Liv Morgan. So obviously, since Liv Morgan cannot defend that championship, it unfortunately had to be vacated. So that's what's going on with that one. I kind of felt that the commentators didn't really do that good of a job cleaning that up in real time. So when you're initially watching it, you're kind of going, especially if you're not really paying attention, you're like, oh, a new title is being introduced? It's like, no, that title was established um, long time ago, but you got the gist of it. But anyway, Rhea Ripley crossing paths with Asuka, letting her know she wasn't appreciating all the trash talking and meddling in Stephanie Vaquer's business, and that she better be careful, otherwise she'd put her in her place. Asuka, you ain't ready for Asuka. Rhea Ripley, actually, I am. Let's do it tonight. Boom. Instant Acme feud. That's your main event match. Rhea Ripley coming out with the W. Um, I would like to go, if I could, I would give this match an even higher rating because I felt this was honestly, if there's one match I got to point to for all tonight, this was the match you should have stuck around for. It was definitely this one because it was pretty good. My only complaint, although they let this match really breathe, the girls must have went at it for like about 12 minutes. I really wish it would have had more of a pay-per-view quality type of feel of a main event, especially considering that both of these women, not for nothing, we didn't see them at Wrestlepalooza. They did not wrestle at Wrestlepalooza, which is just, baffling in itself right there. I wish we could have got to see even more from out of these two. Post match, Asuka ends up misting Rhea Ripley in the face. She forces Kairi Sane to join in on the assault on Ripley, to which Kairi does. Kairi was just hell-bent not interfering in this main event match, despite being, I won't even say asked, demanded by Asuka to interfere. Kairi and Asuka, they ended up getting in the face of Iyo Sky because Iyo came out. She wasn't a fan of everything she was seeing. Asuka, okay, I get you. I hear you. A little bit of a hugging embrace and then a cheap shot to Iyo. Iyo laid out. Asuka demanding that Iyo get involved. Iyo reluctantly getting involved. So show pretty much goes off with Rhea and Asuka getting their asses handed to them. So when I said to you guys to kick off the show that this was another edition of below average to average edition of a WWE show, it really was. Because for here, this was another case where the main highlight of the night was Asuka, Rhea Ripley. I mean, that basically was it. Most of the show was essentially dedicated to putting that fine needle thread to Crown Jewel, as far as I was concerned. I'm a little bit interested in the champion versus champion aspects for the women and for the men's side of things, but everything else, this pretty much was nothing more than a big old nothing burger. I mean, plain and simple. Like I said, we didn't put any polls up for this week. I really didn't feel it was needed. So I think you guys can attest to that. We really didn't need it. Hope you guys been enjoying yourself so far. Yo, if you have not done so already, make sure you are hitting the like, because I don't know how you guys are watching this. I know there's a decent amount of you guys that's been watching our streams via Twitter. Love you guys. These past several weeks, couple of months, I gotta say the Twitter streams when we're live, you guys are representing. I appreciate that. YouTube, YouTube, I'm figuring it out. I am still figuring it out. I am a one-man band after all. I'm still understanding SEO tagging, algorithm, and I know YouTube, it can be very oversaturated because like there's just so many shows that's doing their thing live at the same time and all that. But from what I'm able to see with the YouTube analytics, once we're done with the live streams and all that, I got to tell you, when we're off the air initially, I see how, because I get the reports on YouTube, I see how everything is doing. Watch time's going up, retention time's going up, subscriptions is slowly going up. That's good. So, just got to keep chipping away. I get all the time, dude, you should have more views. Dude, you should have more subscribers. And I always say, well, thank you. And if you are doing your part, you need to definitely make sure you are subscribing and all that. That's definitely how you can help out. Let's get into some more stuff here on the show. We've been at it now for like about 70 minutes. There's a couple of little news, little trinkets that we can go into here on the show here. Rumors are that Gunther is going to be returning to WWE TV very soon. So that should be pretty good. By the way, y'all, I did a poor job in copying and pasting the joints for tonight's Raw. I copied from one of my wrong notes, so don't even look at what we got right now. Don't even look at what we got right now. I'm telling you that right now. But some other headlines that we could dive into here on the show tonight. So, apparently, from what I understand it here, and a big congratulations are in order. I thought this been happened, but Mickie James has been announced to go into the TNA Wrestling Hall of Fame. I thought this been happened. Yo, I thought this been happened, man. Like seriously, I had to do a double take when I saw that because I'm going, wait a minute. Are we sure that we're talking about the same Mickie James? Cause like, no, she already got in the TNA Hall of Fame. Like, what the hell? Like, I knew Gail Kim went in, but there was just a part of me. This is the Mandela effect. Welcome. I thought for sure she got in, but like, no. Good. I cannot help but just be on cloud nine. Let me tell you something. I have been a fan of Mickie James. God, long time. Long time. Way before she even came into the WWE. I remember when she was wrestling as Alexis Lurie, and she was wrestling mainly for the Women's Extreme Wrestling Promotion. Shout out if you remember that. And I heard from friends over the years on good authority that if you ever go to a opportunity where Mickie James is having a meet and greet, the last thing you want to do is present her with some women's extreme wrestling stuff because she will. I guess it brings up bad emotions, mixed I don't know what you want to call it, but like she won't autograph it, from what I understand. Maybe her stance has changed, but yeah, she ain't autographing no WEW stuff. Like you can forget about that. But that's how far back I go back. Like I remember when she and her sister, not for nothing, her sister was pretty good too as a wrestler. It's just interesting how the sister, didn't advance further in her career and everything. Because I think she would have been like now you don't really hear nothing about her these days, unfortunately. But that's great. Of course, I'm thinking about off the break some of the matches. Just my favorite Mickie James matches, of course, the joint with Trish Stratus, WrestleMania 22, going back 2006. Um, I think about the Survivor Series joint against Lita, um, Beth Phoenix, Melina. There's actually a really good one with Michelle McCool, believe it or not. That actually was pretty good. Um, I also think about Chelsea. There was one involving Chelsea Green and Tasha Steeles. That actually was pretty good as well. Anytime we got to see Mickie James and Gail Kim, like instant classic. Mickie James, Awesome Khan. I mean, just man, she Ben should have gone in, man. Like seriously, that makes no sense. Speaking of congratulations, I gotta give a congratulations to my girl, everybody's everybody's girl, Smiley Kylie Ray herself. Congratulations to her. She is welcoming her second child. So she revealed that and it looks like she's maybe about 3 months pregnant. I could be wrong. I don't want to put, because I'm not trying to, but she's got a baby bump, and it's like, oh, she's looking like she's about maybe 3 months pregnant now, or whatnot. So she was the first WWE ID Women's Champion, but on their social media they did, congratulate Kylie Ray, but they also acknowledged that the championship is now vacated. So it's we understand, right? You know, I'm just thinking about that Dave Matthews band song, Don't Drink the Water. There's something good in the water. I mean, we got Naomi pregnant. We got Kylie Ray pregnant. Like, well, who else pregnant that we don't know about that apparently, But no, sincerely, congratulations. That's great. I am just, for Kylie Ray, I'm over the moon and back. It really warms my heart to just see that nothing but continued happiness, nothing but continued good has come the way of her and more so her personal life. I know over the years she had some dark days. There's definitely some demons that was there, and she's doing her very best to seize and hold on to better days. And I think she's been doing a pretty good job at that. And I know, and this isn't me being high and mighty, so just stay with me. I know there was a time when there were podcasters, and this isn't me taking any particular shot in any specific podcaster, but I know there were people that were making fun of some of her darker days. And my whole thing is, look, when you see that something is playing out before your very eyes, you don't kick a person while they're down. If anything, you send words of encouragement. You try to inspire them, aspire them, uplift them. That's the best way to really try to pay it forward and all of that. And I think she is definitely, she may not listen to the podcast, but I think she's well aware about some of the things that we've said about her off and on over the years. And that's not me daydreaming or when you've been around as long as I have, you hear certain things. So I would imagine that when some of the stuff was going on with her, I'm pretty sure she appreciated a lot of what we had to say. So, but that's great. That's sincerely, that's great to hear. Speaking of don't drink the water, Beth Phoenix making her debut at AEW All Out. I think we knew that was just going to be a matter of time that was going to happen. Great pop from the crowd, great ovation from the crowd. Love seeing her spear the hell out of Stokely Hathaway. That was badass. I love that. And do I understand this right? Chris Statlander is now the new AEW Women's Champion, and she got the championship from Tony Storm. That's great. I only saw little droplets of highlights from AEW All Out, and I gotta say, a lot of what I had saw, it looked pretty good. It looked pretty good. I will be watching the show in its entirety, and probably later on during the week, I'll give you guys a bonus show, give you guys my thoughts about the AEW event and all that. I see Jimmy Kimmel, all the craziness that was going on with Jimmy Kimmel. It kind of reminded me a little bit of what all had went down with Howard Stern back in the day. I know I've said here on the show off and on over the years. Howard Stern, one of my all-time favorites. Um, Love the dude. I remember when he was on FM radio, and man, he used to get in trouble with the FCC. Like it was crazy, and it got to a point where Howard Stern just ultimately said, "You know what? Fuck this. I'm done with FM radio. Like I'm taking my talents and I'm going to Sirius XM," and like he essentially changed the face forever of talk radio. I mean, that was a big deal. You guys have no idea for you younger listeners out there. Like it was a big fucking deal when Howard Stern announced he was done with FM radio. You know, it just, and I think that if things didn't play out the way that it did, I honestly believe in my heart of hearts, Howard would have still continued to do FM radio. I think he would have continued to, but Howard and his people, they had the foresight to really pay attention to what was about to happen with media consumption as we know it. They had that foresight to, nah, this is a serious digital turn that's about to happen. And we're talking about a period. Understand something, people. We're talking about a period way before Spotify and YouTube and before all those became a thing. Apple Music and iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and oh well, I can just turn on Twitch and I can watch, or I can just turn on and I can, like, dude was a trailblazer in his own right. He was. So I know the FCC, when it came to Howard Stern, and this does link back to Jimmy Kimmel, when all the stuff was going on with Howard Stern and the FCC. It was more so about, yo, you can't say that, you can't do that. Yo, when you do this, there are violations. These are in violations of FCC rules. And look, let me tell you something. So, like for example, when I was doing live campus radio a couple of months back over at community college, I was given this list because our station, it's a legit radio station. And since it's a legit radio station, anybody can tune in, listen to us, all that good stuff. Like there is FCC guidelines that we have to abide by. And, one of those things, hey, you can't be using profanity live on the air. And it's like, damn, for real? Like, yeah, you can't. Like, okay. And what about our music? Yeah, nah, you can't use profanity. You can't be playing music that's got profanity. Like, no. If it's caught, like, that's a serious fine. It's like, whoa. There's like all these do's, all these don'ts, that's going on and everything. So just think about that. Now we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel. First of all, you're talking to somebody that grew up on Johnny Carson, David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, Arsenio Hall, Jay Leno. I don't give a fuck about Jimmy Kimmel. I don't like Jimmy Kimmel. I don't like Stephen Colbert. I don't like Jimmy Kimmel. I damn sure don't like Jimmy Kimmel. I didn't even care for what's the guy? What's the British fuck that's no longer? I just watched a YouTube video on him the other day. Corbin, whatever. Sounds like Baron Corbin when I hear his name. Wow, he turned out to be an asshole, did he not? Craig Ferguson was actually pretty damn good too, for what it was worth. He actually was pretty damn good. But like, no, the stuff that happened with Jimmy Kimmel last week, I saw the segment in question. Look, I actually thought, okay, this actually happened. Oh, wow. Okay, well, Kimmel got one there. He got a zinger in there. Okay, cool. But man, for Kimmel to be understand something, Kimmel day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. Trump, 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 Trump. And like, I don't know if Kimmel was just thinking the entire time, yo, I am bulletproof, bitch. But I don't know about you all. I'm looking at all this stuff that's happening behind the scenes, all these people that Trump is essentially appointing, and I'm going, yo, better tread lightly. Better watch out, because the next thing you know, your funding or whatever, it might get yoinked, and then better tread lightly. I remember late night talk show hosts that didn't just used to go in on one individual. Their whole thing was, yo, if this person did something and it's funny as fuck and we can turn it into something, we'll do it. But this isn't going to be our main bread and butter. There's just so much other shit that we can be talking about and we should be talking about. That's definitely funny. Let's go there. I don't like what's become of late night talk shows. I mean, for me personally, it's become too political. It's become way too oversaturated on the political talk. I mean, really stop and think about it for a second, especially you older cats out there. I remember a time when it came to the original late night talk show host that I just mentioned. You would stay up to watch those guys because number one, funny as fuck. Number two, they had on a really cool guest that you wanted to stay up and watch. Number three, the musical guests. Oh man, Prince gonna be on or insert whatever. Like, I gotta stay up because they're gonna be performing. I gotta watch this. And the first 15 minutes of the monologue was actually pretty good. It's pretty good. You might get like maybe one political headline during the monologue. Maybe just one. Beyond that, everything else was just, I mean, they were bouncing all over the place. Now, in today's age, you don't believe me and you haven't watched late night talk shows in some years, just if you got a DVR, just record all the guys I just mentioned that's on currently. Just record all their shows. Watch the first 5 minutes, or hell, watch the whole monologue. Watch their whole monologue. Every single motherfucker. Trump, 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 Trump. Then before anybody comes at me and goes, oh, well, I bet you'd be much happier if it was about Obama, or if it was about insert this name instead. Like, I don't care for 11:30 p.m. political rhetoric in general. If I want to hear something for 15, 30 minutes about straight political talk, I'm going to turn on CNN. I'm going to turn on BBC. I'm going to turn on, insert, and, right? You're trying to unwind for the night. You're not trying to get worked up or, right? Because some people get worked up when they're hearing the stuff, heavy talk of politics and all that. So, but I thought the joke that Jimmy Kimmel had cracked, I said, oh, he actually said something that was kind of funny for once. Like, okay, cool. Well, good for Jimmy. And then to hear the FCC head, who was appointed by Trump, basically threatening, to have Kimmel be off the air, encouraging his colleagues to basically do what they could to pull Jimmy Kimmel from off the air and all. They're like, wait a minute. If this isn't biased, like what the fuck? To hear the former Disney head say, yo, this is wrong on so many levels, like, what the fuck? Now the word is that Jimmy Kimmel is going to be returning to his show Tuesday night, but you still got Sinclair Broadcasting, which basically, and I know this is weird, right? Because you're going, wait a minute, ABC, they pretty much are owned by Disney. Yep, that's right. They are owned by Disney. That's correct. So Jimmy Kimmel, Disney, like they can, that's true. But then you have to think about the local affiliate stations that normally show Jimmy Kimmel's joint. And Sinclair Broadcasting has paid for a lot of affiliate stations. So, like for me, for instance, out here in Washington, D.C., I watch Jimmy Kimmel obviously through WJLA 7, ABC 7. Now, I may not have ABC 7 through cable television, your traditional cable television, as I'm accessing through YouTube TV. But that doesn't matter because Sinclair Broadcasting is still affiliated with that local WJLA. So if they decide, they being Sinclair, if they decide, oh, well, you know what? Yeah, we still don't care. ABC might be cool, but we're not cool. We are boycotting showing Jimmy Kimmel on our local Sinclair broadcast stations. Then guess what? Jimmy Kimmel can be back all he wants as of Tuesday on. We're not going to see him over here in the DC region and all that. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jimmy Kimmel and crew, maybe how they might try to get around that, if they might be able to get around that at all. I don't know what their legal rights are. I don't know if it's a case where they could maybe show their entire episodes, upload them to YouTube and or social media, or how exactly that's going to work. I don't give a fuck because I won't be watching. Now, will I be interested to see Kimmel's monologue to try to hear what he has to say? I am going to be curious about that. But, on a much bigger, grander scale, this does tie into a certain degree freedom of speech. One thing that I kept seeing so many people get wrong here. A lot of people were going, "Oh man, this is cancel culture." They're trying to cancel culture Jimmy Kimmel. No, this was not a cancel culture moment. This also was not because something else that I saw running around. I saw a lot of people, throw out there, well, this shouldn't be happening to Jimmy Kimmel because, Jimmy Kimmel, he was just reporting the news and well, first things first. First things first. Jimmy Kimmel was not a journalist. So that's very, very important that we really outline that, because I don't want to bore you guys, but when you are a journalist, there are certain provisions, there are certain laws that protect you. And Jimmy Kimmel is nowhere in that category of, yeah, he may interview different celebrities and all of that from time to time, but Jimmy Kimmel is not a journalist. So let's get that out the way. He is a entertainer. So what you would think would be the same rights that's afforded to a journalist would be afforded to Jimmy Kimmel. Not the case at all. So now, that in mind, let's talk about this whole, okay, so freedom of speech, right? Let's talk about that. That's where it starts to become a slippery slope, unfortunately, because with this situation, I have yet to hear anybody talk about this. I've yet to hear anybody talk about this. But do y'all know what Jimmy Kimmel has said and all? You know what this whole situation reminds me of? It almost reminds me of what went down originally with Arsenio Hall during his first rodeo with his show, which conveniently, you think about, how it was tied to all the affiliate stations from back in the day. So let me set it up properly. Arsenio Hall had decided he was going to interview the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He was going to have him on his show for like the entire episode. Arsenio Hall's producers, they were like, dude, you don't want to do this. You are going to piss off sponsors. You're going to piss off advertisers, telling you that right now. Fans are not going to like this, yo. Like, telling you, don't do this. When word got to the executives, they were like, yo, tell Arsenio, no, cannot, no, don't do this. Don't do this. Arsenio stood his ground. So word got to, I forgot who was it might have been Sinclair Broadcasting for all I know. I'm not sure. But I do remember that the affiliate stations, whoever owned all the affiliate stations that Arsenio Hall was broadcasting on, they kind of got wind that Arsenio was going to do this interview with Minister Farrakhan. And they were like, look, no, like we don't want that. We don't want that heat. Like, he can do whatever else, but like, no, don't. Arsenio did not care. He did the interview anyway, aired it. And it was very controversial at the time. Very, very controversial at the time. Naturally, executives weren't pleased. Higher ups, everybody weren't pleased. The affiliate company that was, running the stations for their local, like Sinclair Broadcasting, like, they weren't happy. Kind of feel like it was Sinclair back then, that first rodeo. I'll have to research that. They definitely weren't happy, and they, to the point, whoever that affiliate station was, affiliate company, they're like, yeah, no, we're done. We're dipping out. We don't want to have anything else to do with this. Like, no, like, so many sponsors, so many motherfuckers had pulled out, and eventually, right? And so you hear that and you go, well, wait a minute, freedom of speech, and oh yes, I agree. But where it starts to become a slippery slope a little bit here is, you're walking that fine line of freedom of speech, but also, hey, don't forget how your bread is being buttered. Don't forget that at the end of the day, you have ultimately a responsibility to XYZ, right? And it's so deep, right? Just imagine for a second that you have a staff of like 75 to like 100 people, and they're relying on you day in and day out to continue to put food on their table, their family's table, lights on, a roof over their head, right? You're relying on all of those people. And just think about that for a second. And now think about going in this position where you're either going to have Farrakhan on your show, or you're going to run with that joke about Trump and not truly think about the ramifications, if any, that can come from it. Now, some of you may say, Lee, I don't want to be living in fear, dog. Like, what the fuck? I'm with you 1,000%, right? But we've seen what this particular president and his administration can and will do. For Christ's fucking sake, PBS isn't even safe. PBS, WETA, they not safe. So if he's willing to come after them, if he's willing to go after the Kennedy Center, because they've got questionable shows that they're doing that he doesn't like, and to make sure that the right type of shows plays at the Kennedy Center, he's now appointing himself the chairman and all this other, and people are just, you've seen the South Park clip, all the people that's coming in there giving Trump this wonderful, oh, Mr. President, you are a gracious leader and your penis is not small, right? I mean, you gotta tread lightly, man. Jimmy Kimmel, look, and all those other guys, they talk really good games. They really, really do. They really do. But when you keep going after somebody night after night, week after week, month after month, year after year, when you keep going at them, baby, let me tell you, them receipts add up. Them receipts add up. And sooner or later, they gon' get your ass. And that's literally what had happened with Kimmel when it was all said and done. Right? This was like it's almost like a weird game of chess. And especially when you go back and you look at 2 months ago, after Colbert, it was announced his show was being canceled, but he'd be on until next year. And Trump's going, okay, now that we've taken care of Colbert, let's now take care of Kimmel. He's next. And why Kimmel at that point, didn't kind of back down just a tiny little bit. And don't get me wrong, like, yeah, be outspoken. But you know what? I think a lot of people can learn a thing or two from how Jon Stewart had covered everything. Seriously, if you guys did not watch The Daily Show with Jon Stewart from, what was it, last Thursday, go watch that shit. The first 25 minutes, that was pure fucking gold. I never laughed so hysterically in my life. 25 minutes of the most brilliant writing and satire comedy at its finest. That shit right there. That's how you do it. That is how you do it. It's very nerve-wracking. It really, really is. I was expecting for Kimmel and everybody else to be a little bit smarter in this. I'm all about freedom of speech, but if you think for 1 second, especially with this current administration, if you think you're going to continue to put down the president, put down his policies, and think you're going to continue to be untouchable, like you got another thing coming. You got another thing coming. And then you see all these ridiculous lawsuits that this guy is putting out there, like every single week. He's got the latest lawsuit that's going on with the New York Times. He's collecting settlements left and right, man. Like, he really got to tread lightly. Like, especially when other people's livelihoods are depending on you. And I think Jimmy Kimmel kind of started to realize that a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see what he has to say in his monologue coming up. But that's my thoughts about that one. Meanwhile, Raja Jackson. Let's talk about Raja Jackson. Apparently, Raja Jackson was finally arrested. Took almost a damn month for this to happen, but the guy finally got arrested. Give you guys a little bit of a timeline of what happened here. So apparently, just a couple of days ago, Raja Jackson was arrested on September 18th in Los Angeles on a felony charge. Bond was set at $50,000. In case you've been living under a rock, basically, surely you all haven't been living under a rock, right? I'm going to assume some of you have been living under a rock. Give you guys a little bit of a quick bullet point timeline. Raja Jackson, son of former UFC champion Quentin Rampage Jackson, during a wrestling event at Knox Pro Wrestling Academy in Sun Valley, California. There was a live stream. What was supposed to be a scripted performance soon escalated as Jackson entered the ring in street clothes, slammed the wrestler Stuart Smith, Psycho Stu, and repeatedly punched him even after Smith was unconscious. From there, significant, devastating injuries was done to Psycho Stu. Serious head trauma, jaw injuries, both upper and lower, a fractured maxilla bone, lacerated upper lip, lost several teeth. He was in ICU for a few days, released on August 31st. Again, this attack happened on August 23rd. Raja Jackson wasn't arrested until September 18th on a felony assault charge. So we've had Jackson's father, Rampage, initially describe the incident as a work that went wrong, meaning something planned for show, but that escalated. However, he's since publicly condemned how bad it got and said Raja should face consequences, whether that involves community service, therapy, combination of both, whatever it takes for Raja to come out a better individual. The Wrestling Academy Knox X released Knox. It's a weird way they got it spelled. Knox released a statement condemning Jackson's actions, calling the assault irresponsible and saying never should have happened. Of course, there's been some debate going over whether Psycho Sue proved it. Reports say there was a can incident earlier in the day and whether Jackson's involvement was initially expected or agreed to, but general consensus seems to be Jackson crossed the line. So as far as looking at things from a legal perspective and everything, Jackson's facing the felony assault charges, the bond being posted. The next steps is obviously going to involve court appearances, possibly evidence from the live stream. The press for Jackson, without a doubt, very bad, especially given who his father is, father being caught in the crosshairs as well. And for those of you that's wondering what's going on with Psycho Stu, he is recovering. Nothing really has been put out since one of the last updates as far as, hey, he's home, he's recovering, he's doing pretty good. Thanks, you guys. But that is basically where we stand right now. One of the first things that kind of clicked in my head is I wonder whether or not that wrestling promotion that called themselves trying to ride the lightning of 15 minutes of fame where they had booked Raja Jackson. I wonder if it's now really settling in for them that, oh shit, you mean this wasn't a work after all? And, oh, this doesn't look, well, maybe we should kind of, kind of see ourselves to the door here. Right? You can't help but wonder that. But God fucking riddance. And look, for people that's like, why did it take so long? Like, what's going on here? Like, make no mistake about it. It did not help that those associated with Knox Academy, if we are to believe the reports to be true, that a lot of the wrestlers were told, yo, when the police come and they trying to get you to make some type of a statement, like don't say nothing to them. I would imagine that did not help the police and their respected investigation. And then it became a case of, all right, well, where is this footage that's being talked about? Like, what's going on with that? What's going on with this footage? And, let's just say for shits and giggles, maybe they try to go to Knox Academy to see the footage in question. And Knox Academy is like, nah, we're not going to help you with that one. And so then guess what? Police, they now got to go with, okay, well, what was put out there on social media? We'll just refer to what was put out there on social media. And, hey, look, if needed, if we need to get some additional subpoenas and all that, if we got to put in a request, then that's what we're going to do. And so that type of paperwork, it's definitely going to take a little bit of time. And then, of course, you got to think about the victim, Psycho Stu, and you got to think about his respected family. And I would imagine that eventually the police ultimately came to them trying to get some type of a statement from them, and asks Stu, hey, look, would you like to file charges? And even if Stu said, look, man, I just want to put this behind me. I don't want any trouble. I just want to, put this behind me and keep things moving along. That's all I really want to do. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but guess what? A crime was committed, and this crime was seen for thousands, millions of people to watch and consume on social media. I'm almost reminded of a classic episode of Law and Order SVU, where there was a victim that was assaulted and killed during a live stream. And Detective Benson and the crew, they had like a real hard, tough time trying to figure out, like, okay, first of all, who was this victim? And then number two, they were trying to figure out the victim, where was all of this streamed from, right? Because they had to deal with just trying to figure out the IP address, get a lockdown on the location and all that. Like they had to go through paperwork. And of course, when you're looking at everything through the magical world of television, like boom, like, and it's not always like that. It doesn't go, just like that. I mean, hell, I just watched on YouTube a legit video the other day where this white guy had an issue with this black woman and her friend for the type of music that they were playing, and he basically told them to turn that shit off. It was too loud, and she's like, "Excuse me," and the next thing you know, she decided, and then she was very smart. She pulled out her phone and she started recording this guy, and this guy actually had got physical with her, all up in her face and all that. She ended up calling the cops, and the cops came. They took a look at her cell phone footage, and the guy in question, he tried to spin it, tried to say that the woman had attacked him, when the woman in question, she had everything on her phone showing otherwise. But when the police went to see the manager of the store where the incident took place in front of, they had to call the manager. Manager comes out, and the manager's like, yeah, unfortunately I can't show the footage to you. Just, I need the proper paperwork. He's like, I'm not being a dick to you guys. It's just I got to cover my ass, and that's the proper protocol. So again, magical world of TV, boom, it's no, it takes weeks upon weeks, and all of that. So it can be slow, the process. I know it might upset a lot of people, but when you're going through, and I would imagine Local authorities did have to go through a lot of red tape. And then also verifying, did this person did this person legit go through this injury? Did they legit go through, right? And then once everything is essentially, established, okay, so now what do we do? And that's how we got to where we got right now. Now, is Roger Jackson going to be facing any type of true justice? 9 times out of 10, probably going to be community hours, probably gonna have to go to counseling and all that loveliness. So no, if it was a case where he did not have the financial resources that are afforded to him because of who his dad is, then this would probably likely be a worse outcome. Definitely a worse outcome. Where if you maybe wanted to entertain potentially incarceration, yeah, probably. But yeah, no, none of that is going to be happening for him. None of that's going to be happening for him. So I'll continue to watch this for you guys, but at least you can kind of celebrate. But then even at that, it's like his bond was $50,000. I mean, that's nothing. That's chump change. That's like nothing, man. One other thing I want to get into for those of you that are not aware, send warm wishes and all that to Big Sexy, Big Daddy Cool, Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash had revealed that he has a irregular heartbeat. Talked about this on the Click This podcast, responding to a fan's question about a recent stress test he underwent. Nash revealed that his cardiologist discovered evidence of a possible heart issue and diagnosed him with a current condition that will require a procedure. Nash explained that the test showed a small amount of scar tissue on his heart, which his doctor said could indicate a minor, undiagnosed cardiac event from decades ago. Pulling a direct quote here from Kevin Nash, my cardiologist said that I could have had a minor heart attack like 20 years ago. The scar tissue on my heart was like 3%, like a 3% scar. He said that could be genetic. It could have been during the procedure of putting the stent. It was in the back of your heart. Nash had a stent put in his heart approximately 20 years ago. He also compared his situation to that of his late father, saying when they gave my dad his autopsy, he had like 4 heart attacks before the 5th one killed him. So just kind of working through them. And in addition of the discovery of the old scar tissue, the recent tests also revealed a current treatable condition. Only problem you got right now is you've got a little bit of an irregular heartbeat. Nash recalled his doctor telling him. Nash confirmed that he's scheduled to undergo a procedure to correct the issue. He said, we're going to zap you and put you back in rhythm. So that's my next thing, Nash said. So definitely keep Kevin Nash in your thoughts. I got to tell you, I think about NWO, it's like we don't have Scott Hall. We don't have the Hawkster now. All that really leaves is Nash. So, seriously, I want this dude, like, we shouldn't be concerned, right? But it's a normal procedure, right? But like weird things have happened. I think about John Ritter, Three's Company, Jack Tripper. John Ritter was supposed to go in for a normal, regular procedure, in and out. One of the last things he said to his wife, be in and out, see you in a little bit, love you. Never came back. So keep your fingers crossed and hope for the very best there. We are at about an hour 59. Let's go ahead and call it. I mean, we did pretty good. Well-rounded episode, ended pretty early. I still get to go to bed on time, all that good stuff. So, like I said, we're gonna do a bonus show for you guys later on in the week for sure. I'm looking forward to that. I'll definitely give you guys my thoughts about the AEW All Out event 'cause I definitely would have watched it by then. And we'll talk also about looks like NXT's got an event too coming up, don't they? What is it, NXT No Mercy or something like that? They got something coming up, so we'll definitely poke our heads in that, see what's up with that, and talk a little TNA, do a little bit more. I'm thinking we'll probably do that show for you guys. Hmm. Maybe we can do it on Friday. How about that? We'll do like a Friday afternoon show for you guys. That'll be kind of a nice little change of pace. Meantime, be kind. Rewind. Check out previous episodes you might have missed on demand and on the downloads wherever you get your podcast. Just search the RCWR show. Definitely want to recognize our sponsors as well. Shout out to the good folks over there at the I radio station, your global soundtrack featuring the hottest indie artists from the 90s to 2000s, throwbacks mixed with today's top 40 hits. Think of it as a world tour for your ears, delivering crowd favorites and hidden gems from the US, Europe, and Canada. Check out that bad boy, the I radio station, streaming 24/7. Proud sponsor of the RCWR show with Lee Sanders. Appreciate you guys that's been supporting the show for on demand, definitely on the downloads. Remember, we got episodes available for you all wherever you get your podcasts. Just search the RCWR show. I am always, of course, on the Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky. Use keywords, the RCWR show. And until next go round, my pretty babies, wishing all y'all to be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. I am working on the Nine Inch Nails Tron Ares album review. It's already been recorded. I've been playing around with it off and on from the weekend, editing here and there. I'm hoping we can have it be up. If I can't get it up Tuesday, at the very latest, Wednesday. So, FYI, that'll be dropping on the YouTube channel. So definitely stay connected. We'll also put up a couple of new foodie reviews for you guys as well. Take care, y'all. Peace.